2 minutes is all it took to secure a victory over the Browns? Could there be a punter controversy in Green Bay? And what about performance-enhancing drugs impacting the team? Plus, we look ahead at the Raiders next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Hey Packers fans, this is your unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, and these are the podcasters you're looking for. One of these guys actually kissed the magical 13.5-yard line, and the other guy will challenge you to a game of pinball anytime. And now, it's time to Go Pack Go with your hosts, Wayne Henderson and Troy Heinrichs.
This is the unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, the Podcast Awards finalist podcast by and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. Call the Packers Fan Podcast feedback hotline at our brand new phone number, area code 920-3PACK-GO. That's 920-3PACK-GO, or visit packersfanpodcast.com/feedback. Be part of the show and let your voice be heard. This is episode 107 of your Packers Fan Podcast, recorded August 16th, 2016, and all the intel and analysis from this edition can be found at packersfanpodcast.com/107.
On this episode, we're going to be sharing the highlights and lowlights from that great win over the Browns last week. We'll also discuss a bit about the performance-enhancing drug news surrounding our Packers defense, and we'll tell you a little bit of a nugget regarding the Jacksonville Jaguars for opening day.
Can't wait. We're also going to share the latest injury news, specifically around Mr. Jeff Janis, talking about some hometown natives getting the chance to play for the Packers, and look ahead to the Raiders coming to Lambeau Field. I'm at Wayne Henderson, your voice acting, podcasting part owner of the Green Bay Packers.
And I'm at Troy Heinrichs, happy to talk about football, but I'm not saying anything about PEDs. Except tonight we'll have to.
I suppose, if we must. And the Packers Fan Podcast is proud to be part of the SPNT.TV Sports Podcast Network. And now, on the go, check in with the podcast with our free Packers Fan Podcast app for iOS and Android, presented by theticketking.com. Remember, you're not sold out until the king is sold out. Get Packers tickets at the best prices by visiting packersfanpodcast.com/tickets for all the details.
Also, become a Packers Fan Podcast Patreon supporter. 1, it helps us grow the show. 2, you get a whole bunch of cool stuff, including, of course, that Reggie White level. Yes, a chance to go to the game with me at Lambeau Field during the 2017 season. All the details can be found at packersfanpodcast.com/support. So why don't we start out this week, Wayne, with our show tonight from a voicemail we got from Ryan, who actually was conversing with me on Twitter as we watched the game last Friday night. Yes, you can follow us on Twitter at PackersFanPod as we chat along with the game. Take it away, Mr. Ryan.
Hey guys, this is Ryan from Chico, California, calling in for the Packers Fan Podcast. My reactions for the preseason game, I was happy with how our defense looked. I thought our young linebackers played pretty well. I really liked Blake Martinez in coverage, even though we didn't see too much of him, which I was kind of disappointed about. I was figuring since he's a rookie, they would give him a little bit more reps, but it seems like Joe Thomas and Carl Bradford shared most of them. Then moving on to the offense, Joe Callahan looked he looked a little fidgety, not too accurate, but, and I said this to you guys on Twitter, once he was in that 2-minute offense, he looked pretty good. I was actually kind of impressed with this 2-minute offense. Now, Johnny the Rocket Crockett, I thought he looked great tonight. He was really speedy. He got that touchdown with the receiving. So, I mean, he's versatile. He can play a couple positions, even though we really don't need any more receivers. But, I was kind of disappointed with how many reps he got rushing the ball. I thought that considering the rookies at quarterback, we would give him a little bit more reps to kind of show what he's got. But, I mean, he still played pretty well. Then we got Aberderis. I mean, he had a really good game, I think. I mean, the two other things is Janis not playing kind of, I wouldn't say concerns me because I'm not as huge on him as a lot of guys, but it tells me that there's something going on, and with him not having a good camp, I'm wondering if this is leading to him getting cut. So that's a question for you guys, what your thoughts are. And then the other thing is our tight ends. I thought the play calls were a lot better for the tight ends so that they were able to be used by them, but also the fact that they looked good. I mean, they were catching. Perillo made some good catches. Cook made some good catches. Rodgers had that bad penalty, but I'm still a huge Rodgers fan. But our tight ends look good, and I'm thinking that has something to do with our new tight end coach, and I'm excited to see what they look like moving forward. What are you guys' thoughts? I'm excited to hear it. Go, Pat, go.
Ryan, thank you so much for giving us a call at our new phone number, area code 920-3PACK-GO. Great to hear from you. And I was following along with you guys on Twitter while the game was airing, even though I didn't get to see the game for a few hours after the fact, but I wanted to be part of the action. So witnessing all the conversations going on Twitter, again, follow our account over there for all the fun at Packers Fan Pod. So Troy, he brought up some great points. What do you think about Ryan's call?
I think show's over. Ryan pretty much covered everything that was on my list for tonight.
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in to the Packers Fan Podcast. Yeah, he's very thorough. But for a preseason game, I know it's just preseason, a lot of vanilla defense and, all that good stuff. But still, it was pretty balanced for a preseason game, minus, the stars that most of the people wanted to see.
Yeah, and it brought up one good point that I didn't actually have on my list was Blake Martinez. I was really excited to see a giant number 50 standing in the middle of that linebacking core. And there was even one play where Martinez literally came through. I think I said it on Twitter. It's like, how do you like that sandwich there from Martinez? I mean, he made that play happen. So it's great to see a MLB that's going to be wearing number 50 out there, roaming the field, giving us that kind of hawk presence from back in the day. It'll be interesting to see what Martinez is able to bring as we go forward in that linebacking crew.
Yeah, and it's going to take me at least a year or two to get used to the fact that somebody else is wearing number 50 out there, because subconsciously I'm like, hey, Hawk. Oh, it's not Hawk.
Well, let's talk about some of those good things that he mentioned. So First and foremost, stats from the game. 40 minutes time of possession. I love it. Love it. 19 first downs, 300 yards of offense, 4 yards per play. If you're playing along at home, people, that's 12 yards after the third down. Those are first downs all day long. I love it. And 2 fourth down conversions and a sweet 2-minute drill. You got to assume Mr. McCarthy was happy about this coming off the field, Wayne.
Yeah, absolutely. Those stats tell more of a story than the final score, winning or losing the preseason game. If we can build on this each week and bring some of that into the regular season, and, having Aaron Rodgers out there, unstoppable is the term that comes to my mind.
Yeah, let's be clear. This was the second team offense pretty much, except for a few runs by Lacey and Starks there on the early goings.
Right.
And most of the time it was the second team defense because no Matthews, no Peppers out on the field. So this is pretty impressive for the second stringers to be able to put up these kinds of numbers, second and third stringers. So I think it shows that we have some pretty good depth on the team this year.
Absolutely. And to your point, if I had to pick out one of those stats, if I can't have them all, I would take that 4 yards per play average and bring that to us all season long.
I'd rather take the 40 minutes time of possession.
But I think
if the other team no ball, that means no score.
Well, okay. But if you do have 4 yards per play on average, I think that's what gives you the 40 minutes time of possession. But it's all good stuff, And like he touched on, Joe Callahan, pretty good. Not very many long passes. We'd like to see some more of that. But, he's, doing pretty well for the preseason. I thought Joe's definitely not going to be the number 2 backup. I think, that's definitely already locked in. But I could see him definitely making the team.
Yeah, he'll definitely be a practice squad attendee. I mean, and I know what you're saying about the long ball, right? We had that problem with Rodgers last year. We didn't stretch the field, and that got us into a little bit of a pickle. But still, 16 of 23 with a touchdown, a 97 passer rating for his first NFL game, commanding 2-minute drill, passer rating, completion rating of 70%. I mean, he's wearing number 6 because right now he's a glass half full of 12 on Friday night.
Oh, I see what you did there. Okay.
And a lot of people were saying that through his form and the way he was kind of scrambling around, escaping. Now, he is only 6'1", so with that 6'1", he's a little bit shorter than your typical height of what you would want in a quarterback. So that's one of the things that's kind of a ding against him. And his arm strength isn't as good as our fourth string quarterback, but at the same time, I think he played very smartly, and you could almost say there was a little bit of the old gunslinger there, Mr. Favre himself channeling through Mr. Callahan, I think.
There was definitely a little bit of that, and of course, having a tall quarterback is a plus, but on the other hand, Russell Wilson has shown that he does quite well for himself, just the way he is. So 6'1", that's relatively tall in my book. I mean, it's not Aaron Rodgers tall or Peyton Manning tall, but yeah. And anytime you can bring in a little bit of the Favre action into your playing style, it just lights up the crowd at Lambeau Field.
It absolutely does. But 70% again, completion rating, accuracy is king. The 2-minute drill, that was 12 plays, 80 yards, took 2 minutes, 27 seconds, 8 and 10 on that drive. That's just pure execution. He was focused and determined to get that touchdown before he got yanked out of the game.
And maybe he's going to follow in Rodgers' footsteps and try to save the 3 long bombs for just 3 key plays, like when we play the Lions and the Cardinals.
Let's not hope we have to go through that again. That's just too much heart attack for me.
I know, my medication, I got to get a refill.
Oh, my goodness. Season will be here before you know it. Now, Justin Perillo was one of those targets that was on the other hand of those Callahan passes. The new hashtag for the season is hashtag Perillo time. Yes, 5 catches, 52 yards. I am confident at this point the Packers will keep 3 tight ends this season because Perillo has been doing nothing but stellar things in camp. At practice, it shows in the game. So I'm going to say it right now. I said it last year with the size of our tight ends. We need to play more 2 tight end sets because that's what they did on Friday night. And let me tell you, it worked, people. It worked. So 2 wide, 2 tight end, rotate these guys in all day. You can, and if you need to, Cobb could play in the slot with Jordy and Ty on the outside. That would be pretty awesome too. I mean, I'm talking like 50 touchdowns this season for Rodgers.
Sounds fabulous. And I am all for having a 2 tight end set out there. Jared Cook, he's going to be awesome. Perillo, he's the hot hand right now. It sounds like a win-win.
We don't want to leave Abadaris out of the equation here.
No.
He's having a really good camp too. And Abadaris now with the situation with Janis, Rodgers is really impressed with Abadaris. And I really think that when you look at the depth chart, right, it's going to be obviously Cobb and Jordy. And Jordy, they're talking about maybe a week out before he comes back from the knee and being able to practice. So you'll have Jordy, you have Cobb, you got Ty, you got Adams, you got Abadaris in this case. So you have 5 good wide receivers right there. So I think we'll be in pretty good shape when it comes to that, plus adding 3 tight ends. And I think we'll be looking pretty good from an offensive juggernaut perspective as we go into the weakest of our schedules that we've had in a long time. We should be able to roll through no problem.
Yeah, even with that early bye week, which is strange, but maybe getting that out of the way early, we can get on a roll and just keep going. And like you said, with all these wide receivers and tight ends, it's almost an embarrassment of riches. And I don't want Jordy to come back until he's ready and we know he's 100%. But once he is, look out, ladies and gentlemen.
Speaking of abundance of riches, the hometown team is going after some hometown players. And Peter Mortel, look at this guy. First, he's the ESPN College Football Holder of the Year last year coming out of Minnesota. And he can actually punt really, really well. 3 punts, a 44-yard average. All 3 of his punts landed inside of the 20 and no touchbacks. That is field position, people. That wins you ball games. And literally hire him today. Sorry, Tim. Love you, but we've ragged on you long enough on this show. You're out, dude. Peter, step on up. It's all you.
Wow.
And plus, even though Crosby did hit 2 54-yarders with Mass Day holding, I mean, just picture if Peter Mortel can hold the ball as well as they say he holds the ball, according to ESPN, Crosby could be hitting from 60+.
Oh, my goodness. We are in fantasy land. As far as if that happens, we're going to just have, a buzz about us. When I saw Mortel do some of those punts, I was thinking what you were thinking. Or basically, I was thinking, I'm going to hear Troy talk about this on the podcast. I just know it. Mass Day's on the poo-poo list.
Big on the caca. someone that's not full of caca, Johnny the Rocket Crockett. And I love that Ryan's already picked up on our nickname for Johnny
Yes,
Crockett.
that's
That
good
is
to
so
hear.
awesome. I tweeted him. Hopefully the Croc is going to be able to.
The Croc.
You can just come up with all of them. It depends on what he wants to use, right? But Johnny the Rocket Crockett getting the only touchdown of the night from Callahan. Eddie Lacy had 6 yards a carry.
Yeah, baby.
The big thing about that is that most of those yards were yak yards. That's yards after contact. And that is what we want to see from Eddie Lacy this year. If he's able to be back in form like he was his rookie season, a lot of his were yards after that first initial hit. So with most of his yards coming that way in this game, I think the Eddie Lacy of old is back. Of course, time will tell. But Brandon Burks, he was showing off his stuff and trying to make a name for himself on this team. 45 yards on the night and a 5-yard carry average. That's how you get all these numbers to be so high and keep that 4 yards per play number that Wayne wants to see. So really, really great job from the running backs as well.
Oh, absolutely. And, understanding it's preseason and a lot of the defenses are pretty vanilla, like I touched on earlier, it's still great to see because it just seems like they started camp not very long ago. We had family night, and now we're already playing pretty much game situations.
Speaking of those vanilla defenses, the team that wasn't playing a vanilla defense was the Packers. Dayton Jones, Kyler Fackrell, Reggie Gilbert, and Christian Ringo. Like ring his bell. That's what's going to be happening all season long. A sack for each of these guys.
Nice.
So now if you're playing along at home, that's 2 sacks from the line and 2 from the linebackers. So Dom Capers has to be pretty darn happy with the performance, especially because Matthews and Peppers weren't on the field, not to mention some other things that are going on with the two of them.
But at least we also got to see some turnovers. That Micah Hyde catch, that interception, that was a thing of beauty, Troy. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, man, I was tearing up. I was like, wow, look at him fly, catch that ball. Oh, that's so sweet. And then, of course, we were all playing the music after Banjo got the fumble recovery after that muff punt. That was music to my ears because that was just an amazing point. It's swinging. If that's a regular season game, that is a momentum-changing moment for the game in the regular season. And it's great to see that special teams is able to come through with the hands team. So things were looking all flying colors for the most part in this contest.
Yeah, I know it's only the first game, the first preseason game, but this was a lot more exciting than any first, week 1 preseason Packers game that I can remember for years and years. And so many good things coming out of the game, but Troy, not everything was good. It was overall fantastic, but a few lowlights. Break them down for us.
Like that second team offensive line. I mean, missing that coverage completely and blowing the safety, that was not so good because remember O-line last year, super, super depth we had to go to because everybody was hurt. And if we need to have a deep offensive line this year, we have to figure that stuff out and not let those mistakes happen. I don't know if it was just a blown coverage or if truly somebody missed their assignment. We'll have a look at the coach's film and see what that's all about. But, we'll fix that stuff. We'll get it done. We got 3 more games to go before the real fun actually starts.
Yeah, and Marquise Williams, bless his heart, he's going to come a long way. He's got a big arm. So in that respect, he should turn out very, very well. But his play decisions were kind of all over the map. And were you nervous basically every time he went to take a snap?
A little bit. I mean, he did execute that one drive fairly well, but when you're in that position, especially when you're playing in the 3rd and 4th strings towards the end of the game, and granted, the other side of the ball is trying to make plays because they have to make the team too, but the number one thing a quarterback cannot do is cost the team points by turning the ball over at the goal line, and unfortunately, Marquise did that in this game. So, with the way Callahan played and with that turnover, yeah, you're not going to count him out just yet, but man, it's a big downer. Williams has got to really pick it up in practice this week, and he might not even get to play. I don't know how they're going to break it down because Hundley is supposedly feeling better. So now the rumor is that Huntley's going to start, and Rodgers won't even see the field this week either.
I would not be surprised if we don't see any AR-12 on the field until that 3rd preseason game. But I do want to see Brett Hundley. If he is well enough to play, I want to see that guy out there because just in case, we need a strong number 2. And last year we talked about how great he looked in preseason. I'm expecting stellar things from him throughout the rest of this preseason.
Absolutely. Okay, now do we get to talk about Tim Mastay?
Yes. We Tim, we do love you. We do love you. And everything you've done for the Packers, but we do need longer punts, so tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, 4:36 to go in the second. Mastay punts 37 yards to the Cleveland 28 from the Green Bay 35. I mean, you can't put him back a little bit further there. I mean, that is like a perfect opportunity to drop it on the 15. And then we have at the Green Bay 1, so yes, punting from his end zone. I know that's challenging. It's very tight back there. But a 43-yard punt to the Green Bay 44. If you can't get the ball far because of the shortness, you got to get the ball high for the hang time so that you don't allow a big run back, which is exactly what happened on that play because they ran it all the way back, I believe it was to the 28 in that situation. So you got to do better. I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, when you have one guy who punts about the same distance but lands all three of them inside the 20, and then you have these that are not giving us good field position, you know, I have to say Tim's days might be numbered.
All good things eventually come to an end, and we have to think of the best scenario for the Green Bay Packers. And possibly just having this competition might bring out the best in him after we go a few more games.
Yeah, and I would normally say that the thing that would help Tim's chances would be Crosby, because if Tim's Crosby's holder and they're used to working together,
that's true.
You know, that actually does play a lot into field goal considerations. But when you got the holder of the year, you know, you kind of lose that argument too. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Plus, it'd be really great to have a hometown Green Bay native on the team actually playing and starting. That'd be totally awesome.
Yeah, I love when that kind of stuff happens. And this week's game against the Raiders is on a Thursday night. It's actually being broadcast live in my area because even though the Raiders have been gone from Los Angeles for 22 years or so, they still think we want to see every Raiders game, which this week it turns out to be fine because I get to see my Packers.
There you go. I still got to watch it on the Game Pass, which was a very actually really pleasant experience last week. Live, that is. I watched it live on Game Pass, which is great. Demarius Randall, I'm hoping that we're not having a sophomore slump here because he gave up that huge play to Tyrell Pryor on the side. So do we think that Demarius is going to correct that problem and get back to his shutdown cornerback ways?
Yes. I think that's just an aberration, and he's already moved on from it, and he's going to probably repay us in a good way this week.
So let's go ahead and look at injury news because the center position has been a little bit of a situation this year. So they actually signed another hometown De Pere, Wisconsin native, Kyle, I'm going to say it's Stuck, Steuck, who did play at West De Pere High School. So it'll be interesting to see what Kyle will be able to bring to the picture as we look for more depth at center.
Yeah, that's a critical position. And like you talked about earlier, Troy, with all the rotating people in and out, it just, when I hear you say the I word, injury, I get nervous.
Yeah, like get really nervous because everybody's mythical fandom. And yes, I was on that bandwagon last year. Yes, I agree. He's not the greatest route runner and not the greatest receiver in the world. But he did catch an awesome Hail Mary in the playoffs that actually helped extend our life to potentially going to that championship game. But I think Jeff Janis's Hail Mary catching days will be numbered in Green Bay as he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks with a hand surgery. And because of the emergence of Perillo, Montgomery being back, Abadaris really continuing to shine with Rodgers, I think that Janis's season in Green Bay will be short-lived.
And that's too bad for Jeff. And I remember that Hail Mary catch so very well. What a thing of beauty. But
I believe you were there to see it live.
I was there. And it was great to be a Packers fan till nobody decided to tackle the Cardinals in overtime. But with that being said, we're hoping for the best, and I hope his surgery goes well and he does recover just in case we need someone to come up and fill a slot.
And now, of course, we have to talk about the ugly elephant in the room,
You said we have to talk about it?
Well, we're a fan podcast, and it is news.
Okay.
and it is the big news for the week.
I still can't believe it, but break it down for us, and then I'll comment.
It's just ridiculous where this stuff is getting to. But the performance-enhancing drug scandal, yes. So first of all, reminder, Dimitri Goodson and Mike Pennell are already serving a 4-game suspension for violating the league substance abuse policy. So on top of those two being gone for the first 4 games of the season, we got to deal with this Al Jazeera mess, which literally has Clay Matthews and Julius Peppers literally in the bullseye of the league. So what happened this week was that the league came out and said that you need to come in and you need to talk to us so we can get to the bottom of the situation. And they are not talking. They're not giving the interview. They're not approaching the league, probably under advice from the NFLPA or from their lawyers or what have you. So the NFL came back, the league came back and said, either comply with an interview by August 25th, or you will have an indefinite suspension that would start immediately on the 26th of August. That means that until Clay Matthews and Julius Peppers come in and grant the NFL the interview to talk about the PED scandal from the Al Jazeera video, that literally Matthews and Peppers would be suspended from all activities, all games, forever until that interview happens.
Unbelievable.
Now, this is where things get a little bit crazy, because on the face of this, you would assume, take the 4-game suspension and move on, right? Hey, yep, I took a performance-enhancing drug. I'm sorry. 4-game suspension. I'm back on the field. That's one way you could look at it, right? Others would say, just deny it, right? No, I didn't take any performance-enhancing drugs. Stretch out the investigation so you can play at least this season, and then you get Ryan Braun later, and you find out that you lied, and then your suspension served next year. Or you can just say, I'm not going to say anything. And this is where the real issue is, because the league, I feel, is overstepping its involvement in the matter. Because if a player were to honor the request of the NFL to have this interview conversation, it's literally setting a precedent for the rest of the league and the NFL to be able to ask a player anything they want about. So just drag anybody in, find anything that's at fault with them, and suspend them. So I feel that the league, and in this case, when I say the league, I say Roger Goodell, is really coming down to say, give me the ultimate power to do whatever I want, when you have to remember that Roger Goodell is in place to serve the owners of the teams. Now, the owners obviously want their star players to play, because star players play, owners make money. Unless you're a Green Bay Packer owner, because we don't get anything.
Exactly.
Except awesome merchandise that we can purchase from the Packers Pro Shop. But at the same time, if this is happening, it's really going to be a battle between Goodell in the league office versus the NFL Players Association, who's going to have to stand up and say, no, this is against the rules or the collective bargaining agreement, et cetera, et cetera. So I think right now, even though for a Packers fan perspective, we absolutely want Peppers and Matthews out on the field, from a league perspective in football in general, I think they are doing the right thing by staying silent until at least the NFL Players Association gives them direction on what to do, because it could set up a future situation that would not be good for the football league and for the players in general for the future, which ultimately impacts us as the fans.
Now, what if they decided to go ahead, and they being Julius Peppers and Clay Matthews, they go ahead and meet to do this interview and basically not say anything, come to the interview, but say, look, we didn't do this and this, that, and the other. I mean, would that satisfy them? Because the league wants the interview. Can they just do it and not say anything?
It's like showing up to media day and just saying, yep, I'm here, but I'm not going to answer any questions. Same kind of concept.
They, okay, say you're Clay Matthews. You show up, they start asking questions, and you're like, I thought you were just going to try to find out from me whether or not I actually played Pokemon Go on Packers time and caught a Bulbasaur in the end zone.
Hey, catch anything in the end zone if you're Clay Matthews. I'm fine with that.
Exactly. And the other point I wanted to bring up is this whole Al Jazeera mess, like you touched on earlier. Isn't this the same situation that was kind of tied to Peyton Manning at the end of last season? And the man behind the Al Jazeera quote unquote accusations, he actually recants everything he said. So it's as if it never happened, but the NFL still wants to pursue it.
That's my understanding of the situation. Now, I don't know if it was a separate documentary or a different journalist. I didn't read that much into it. All I know is that I heard possible suspension indefinitely. And I was like, whoa, wait, what? And then I looked into it. And that's when I said, okay, yeah, this makes sense because it could set a precedent for the future that Goodell can just shove his weight around. And we already know, heck, we saw it in the game against the Browns. I mean, literally the ball just left RG3's hand and he got rolled into from the lower side. And now I think it was Mike Spofford from the Packers, network said that, the low hit contacts on quarterbacks are a primary focus for this season. But it's like, come on, the ball just left his hand.
Yeah.
There has to be a gray area of intent to hit versus, falling already in the motion of tackling where you cannot physically stop your body to bump into him.
I know I couldn't stop mine. I don't have that kind of control. And you're right. What they're focusing on is a bit ridiculous. And I tried to get down close enough to talk to Goodell this past weekend at the LA Coliseum, welcoming the Rams back to Southern California, but I just couldn't get to him. I wanted to get firsthand remarks, but it wasn't going to happen.
Yes. Why don't you tell us about that real quick as we move into other news? How was your return to the Los Angeles Coliseum for the first time?
Well, it is great to have, a team, an NFL team back in Southern California. And I'm sure, once they build the new stadium and charge everybody out of their mind PSL private seat licenses, it's going to be a real nice stadium. But the Coliseum is a dump. I don't think it's been remodeled since the 80s. Like I showed you on Twitter, they had the 16-bit graphic scoreboard. I couldn't even tell what the score was or what down it was. I mean, it was packed with a bunch of rowdy Cowboys and Rams fans. And it was great that we have a team here because, in a few years when Los Angeles gets to host a Super Bowl, I assume the Packers will be playing in that one and it'll be just down the street.
Well, unless the Packers finish in first, which they will, and the Rams finish in first, which they could, you never know, we won't be able to go to a game until 2018 when we next play the NFC West. So hopefully we can go next year, but looks like it'll be 2 years out most likely.
I am totally ready, though, if something strange happens and for whatever reason the Packers have a playoff game in Los Angeles, I'll be reporting live from the scene, and you'll need to fly on out to SoCal, Troy.
I am already buying my ticket. That is, of course, unless the Rams come here, then you'll have to buy a ticket.
Well, I'm not a Rams fan. Just love football and the Packers. And speaking of tickets, you had a tidbit that you've been teasing me about. What's this about tickets?
Yeah, so if you remember, there was a potential that the Jacksonville Jaguar Packer game was potentially going to be in London. And man, are the Jaguars happy that it was not, because for the first time since October of 2014, the Jacksonville Jaguars have sold out the game against the Packers.
Nice.
Yes, that's right. A first sellout since October of 2014 there in Jacksonville. We've always said it, and we've both experienced it firsthand last season, that Packers fans travel well. Hashtag 9th home game.
I'm hoping that having such a Lambeau contingent in Jacksonville will help overcome the heat and humidity that is bound to be in that opening day game.
And of course, if you want tickets to away games, you can also get those at theticketking.com. PackersFanPodcast.com/tickets. They are selling standing room only seats for that Jaguars game, or of course through the usual methods, in case anybody's not actually going to the game. So again, PackersFanPodcast.com/tickets for both home and away, courtesy of theticketking.com.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game, and of course we'll focus on that more in a couple of weeks. But I have to tell you, it's been a few years. I'm still not used to the Jaguars having that two-tone helmet. Where it's
I'm not used to the Jaguars being in the league.
Oh, no, you didn't.
But this year's supposed to be better. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Do not overlook them for that first game out of the gate.
No, but it's good to hear that the game is sold out, and it's because of Packers fans.
It's always good stuff. Now remember what McCarthy says, though. One game at a time.
Yes.
So first, we must look at the Raiders, who we play on Thursday night. Woo! That's right. It's a Thursday night game this week. Did you know that the team actually does their training camp this is the team that's in the black hole, right? Chains and whips and all this other tattoos, and they go out to Napa Valley for training camp.
I know. But I mean, if you had the chance to go to Napa Valley for a training camp, you would do it too.
I suppose, sure. It just seems weird, like the dark eye makeup and the chains and the whips and all that stuff.
The masks
and the rowdy.
And the horns. Yeah,
exactly. Sip some wine while you're out here in one country.
Yeah. It does give you a pause, but it's true.
Well, Demarius will definitely have a chance to make up for last week against the Browns because wide receivers Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, and even DeAndre Washington, who had a sweet move against the Cards last week. You're going to have to keep an eye out for those guys. I think the cornerbacks will have their work cut out for them this week against the Raiders. Plus, the Raiders' defense in fantasy right now is a top 10 defense, so that should be a good test to see if the explosive Packers offense can take them to town. And Derek Carr should be another feast for Dom Capers' defense because Derek Carr actually regressed in his fantasy rankings because of his decline at the end of last season. But remember, he still has Cooper and Crabtree, which he's actually looked pretty good passing to those guys in training camp this season. So keep an eye out because he could beat you long, but at the same time, I really hope we see some more pack attack sacks.
Oh, that would be very, very nice indeed. And who knows, in a couple of years, there's rumblings that they could become the Las Vegas Raiders.
That is so weird.
And then who knows where they'll have training camp? Lake Mead?
At least before, they left Cleveland and went back to Baltimore, even though they went to the Ravens instead of the Colts because the Colts were still taken.
Right.
But then the Cleveland Browns came back to life, right? Here, the LA Rams have come back to life. Going to Vegas just as odd.
As long as they don't come to Los Angeles, we do not need the Raiders.
What if they change their colors and you have to bet on red instead of betting on black?
I can't keep track. But, the Raiders, like you said, they're kind of up and coming. They are also selling a lot more tickets to their games, which is unbelievable because I'm sure their stadiums know Lambeau Field. That is for sure.
It's not much of a stadium at all.
Yeah.
They desperately need a new one. They actually made a deal that they could actually play, or they were trying to make a deal that they could share the stadium with San Francisco. And they were like, nope, we're Oakland and we're staying proud.
Yeah. So, okay. Good luck with that. Oh, and there's a lot more all about the Raiders-Packers game. Even though it's preseason, the Packers organization has a full dope sheet out, and we will link to this specific dope sheet in our show notes at PackersFanPodcast.com/107. And this game is called the Bishop's Charities Game. It's great to hear the Packers being involved in so many great charities, especially these preseason games. The Packers and Raiders will face off for the 10th time just in preseason. The Raiders lead the preseason series 5-4, whoop whoop, while Green Bay leads the regular season series 7-5, and that's what really, really matters. And this will be the third consecutive year the Packers and Raiders play each other. In 2015, they faced off during the regular season with the Packers winning, of course, 30-20, and at Oakland. And in 2014, they played during the preseason with Green Bay winning 31-21 at Lambeau Field. And this is the part that when I read it,
what you're saying there is that's a trend, right? So in 2016, the Packers will win.
Yes.
It looks like it's going down by a point. So that means we're going to win 29-19.
There you go. 19. There's that Stephen King number yet again. Going into the Coliseum to see the Rams back to LA last week, entered at gate 19. It was destiny. This I had to reread twice because when you say it out loud, this sounds odd, but it's true. This will be the last Green Bay home game for more than a month, Troy.
Wow.
Packers will play 4 consecutive road games, 2 preseason and 2 regular season away games before hosting the Detroit Lions on September 25th, which sounds so far, far away.
Yes, that does. But it'll be the great game on the 25th because to open up our first home contest against the Lions, we can start the new streak of always winning in Wisconsin.
That's right.
Game number 1.
For another couple decades. We'll just start it all over again. And Thursday night marks another Green Bay preseason tradition. Again, the Bishop's Charities game. It was first played in 1961 after Vince Lombardi was approached by the Diocese of Green Bay about playing a charitable contest in Green Bay. The Shrine Contest that the Packers played last week was a fixture in Milwaukee, and the series enjoys its 56th contest this year and has raised, check this, $3.7 million American dollars, now that's some charity fundraising right there.
That's a lot of cheese.
That's a lot of cheese and American cash. For more than 30 years, the church handled much of the game's business-related tasks, including game program and advertising sales using a network of volunteers covering 14 counties throughout northeastern Wisconsin. But the Packers assumed many of those tasks back in 1994. And just a couple other quick things on the coaches. Mike McCarthy, his 11th NFL season, and he's currently at 112 wins, 62 losses, and that one pesky tie. And Jack Del Rio, his 11th NFL season also as a head coach. Unfortunately, Jack is 76 and 82, but trying harder. I don't know.
Yes, some good matchups, and I think it'll be interesting to see, what Mike and Jack are going to actually be looking for as far as their players go, personnel matches and schemes. It should be an interesting game, even though it is just preseason.
Oh, absolutely. And this one, with the Raiders and the Packers, they've got so much that ties them together. And of course, with Woodson retiring, he's no longer, involved with the Packers or the Raiders. So it's going to be totally different not having Charles Woodson involved in this game on either side of the field. Though I did see Charles Woodson down in the end zone doing his ESPN analyst type stuff at the Coliseum this past weekend. So I can at least say I saw Charles Woodson this year, but he wasn't catching footballs.
No. And of course, this game will be televised on the Packers State Radio Network in Wisconsin, as well as anywhere the Oakland Raiders coverage carries all the way to Los Angeles, apparently.
Yeah.
And of course, on the Packers Radio Network with WTMJ as the flagship there out of Milwaukee at AM 620. And if you have the NFL Game Pass for $99 a year, you can catch the preseason games live. That's all of the games, not just the Packers, or get the condensed version after the fact, so you can watch just the highlights of the plays and snaps all season long over with the NFL Game Pass as well.
And speaking of alternate ways to watch football games, NFL football games, you know how this season Twitter is going to be broadcasting some of the Thursday night games in addition to some other networks. But it just strikes me as odd that Twitter is going to be streaming NFL football games on Thursday night. But it came out this week that they are apparently trying to get approval for a Twitter app on Apple TV where you could then see NFL Thursday night football games on your Apple TV via Twitter. I don't know how that would work, but it's a step in the right direction, I feel.
Yeah, I think it's a really great experience because if you think about like pop-up video or nuggets that would show up maybe at the bottom third of the screen as the game's going on, I mean, I could just imagine an interface where you could literally have everybody like we were on Twitter on Friday night, right, talking about the game. So if you have a tweet that's actually being talked about, retweeted, favorited, liked, whatever the thing is now, liked, right, hearted. I always get confused. But if something is actually like getting that kind of buzz, then literally it could become like a sticky tweet at the top of the screen. And so then you can actually see like what are the big highlight plays of the moments and things as the stream. Because I think the inundated stream going by as the game is going on, I think that would be absolutely daunting, number one, and two, very distracting. Because you can't read all of it, right? But if you had like the big key ones where Twitter could surface up in a full game experience, hey, here are the big 10 tweets or whatever that are happening right now. I think those would be kind of interesting to add to the action because then you can be like, yeah, I totally agree with that, and bust out your cell phone and be able to go ahead and interact on Twitter as well. I think that's the right play for Twitter. It'll just be interesting to see if people flock over to the Apple TV experience for that in order to make that happen, or just stick with watching it on the NFL Network, or in the case of this season, CBS will have the games again as well.
Yeah, for at least part of the season. I don't know if they're having them for the whole season or not. But I know there's quite a few people that don't have cable TV or access to the NFL Network. So any other options, I'm all for it.
Absolutely. Well, that'll do it for this week. Remember, the Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. However, we sure would like to be. Yes. So send us some tickets or something or whatever. Media@PackersFanPodcast.com is the email to get in touch with us. And don't forget to become one of the Packers Fan Podcast faithful by visiting PackersFanPodcast.com/support. That way you can help make your podcast. That's right. This is for you all. We don't do it because we like it. We do like the Packers, but it's really for you guys, the fans. So make sure you get in touch with us because we want to make sure that you can tell all of your friends about the Packers Fan Podcast for the 2016 season.
Yes, please do. And be sure to tune in with us. Take us on the go with you, won't you? With the free Packers Fan Podcast iOS and Android apps presented by theticketking.com. Don't get sold out of your next Packer game. Visit PackersFanPodcast.com/tickets for all the details. And all season long, like we talked about earlier, follow us on Twitter @PackersFanPod, as well as our personal accounts. I'm @Wayne Henderson.
And me, I'm @Troy Heinrichs. Be sure to like us on Facebook as well. Just visit PackersFanPodcast.com/Facebook to join the community.
Also, remember PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback to get your thoughts in. Be part of the next episode of the podcast and keep the conversation going online. We're going to be back with more preseason Packers coverage before you know it. But until next time, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Packers Fan Podcast.
Call in with your thoughts at 920-3PACK-GO. And remember, it's the last home game for a long time, so cheer on the Packers with a Go Pack Go!